Hello students, Mr. Sims presents Equations Day 1 Examples/Exercises. So at this point we've gone through the lesson objective and we've done a couple warm-up activities where we talk about this word of simplifying. And simplifying really breaks it down into two different steps. Step number 1 is to do any distributing that you can. So anytime there's a set of parentheses, it's doing the distributing, and then also doing any combining. Right. So in this part of today's lesson, in this first video, then I'm going to go over a couple of examples of how to just distribute then solve and how to just combine like terms and then solve. And then we'll do some problems. The second video will be a mix of both. It'll be an extension to this. So example number 1. And I'm going to use the word solve. This is just pretty much straight algebra. So I'm going to model a couple of examples here. So first one I'll do is going to be a fairly basic one where we don't have to worry about signs. So we're going to write this down. 2 times 3a plus 2 equals negative 8. I will throw a negative in at the other side. All right. So in an example like this, you can see that you've got a set of parentheses. So if we talk about simplifying, the first thing we could do, and there's another way to do this, and that might be more for as an enrichment. But for right now, this will get you through every algebra problem that you're going to do this year, next year, and even getting into 9th grade. Do any type of distributing. So we're going to do 2 times 3a. I'll write this out the first time just so we can see. It's 2 times 3a plus 2 times this 2 here equals negative 8. All right, so 2 times 3a is 6a. 2 times 2 is 4 equals negative 8. Okay? And then now that you've got to this point, then it becomes a two-step equation. So circle the variable, we undo the operation, so we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Watch your signs here, because this is where 90% of your mistakes are going to come from making mistakes with negatives. Okay, so we got negative 8, and if I take negative 8 and I take 4 more away, that's negative 12. Okay, remember, we're combining. It's not necessarily adding and subtracting, it's combining. All right, divide both sides by 6. In a, if I have a negative and I divide by a positive, it becomes a negative. I get a equals negative 2. All right, so now let me model another one. Now let me model one that's got some negatives in it, because this is where, this is b. We're going to throw a negative 2 out front, and we're going to go b minus 4 equals 12. Right. Obviously, you can pause these videos as you go to get the equations written down. So when I distribute, if it's a negative outside, you are distributing the negative that's attached to it. So we're going to take negative 2 times b, negative 2b. Then I'm going to take negative 2 times negative 4. Remember, you have a negative here times a negative there. That becomes a positive. That's where mistakes are going to be made. 90% of them are going to be made right there. All right, so you got to pay close attention. Okay, and then equals 12. So now, continue along the equation. Okay, I'm going to subtract 8. Okay, so here's my variable. Subtract 8. Whatever we do on one side, we have to do the other. There's a negative 2 still in front of b. All right, 12 minus 8 is 4. All right. Now be careful here, because sometimes you think that negative out front and you think, well, if it's a negative, I got to do a plus. Well, that's if you're adding or subtracting. So like this plus here had to be a negative and so on. So this one is being multiplied. So we divide by negative 2, and you get b equals positive divided by negative is a negative 2. All right, so I've modeled a couple. So at this point, I'm going to write 2 exercises down. For you to work on, and you pause the video and work on both of them. So the first one I'm going to give you, I'll give you a simple one. 3 t minus 12 equals 27. And then the second one I'll give you is, we're going to give you a tough one. Negative 6. 10 minus 4x equals 132. So what you're going to do is you're going to work through, you're going to pause. Oh, actually, let me move this down so you can actually see the 2 equations. So you write these 2 equations down. You're going to hit pause. You're then going to work through them, and you're going to check in with me. Once you've checked in with me, then you can go on to example number 2. So hit pause now. All right. So we are back with example number 2. So we've done a couple of examples of just distributing. So let's do a couple of quick examples of just combining. So example number 2. Solve by combining. Right? And we'll start with letter A. A was going to be, we're going to have a negative 3z plus 8 minus 2z equals negative 12. I did throw some negatives in there. All right? So keep in mind, you're trying to get x alone. Well, when there's one x, it's fairly clear. But when there's more than one x, well, in this case, I put x in quotations because it could be any letter. In this case, it's actually z. So in this particular example, what you're trying to do is you're trying to do all your combining ahead of time. So if you have z's that are on the same side of the equation, and we're going to talk about what happens when they're on opposite sides, you just combined the z's. So if I have negative 3z and I have a minus 2z, if I combine them, that gives me negative 5z. Plus 8 equals negative 12. Right? Then from there, equations, solving. So here we go. Here's my variable. I'm going to subtract 8. Shouldn't really be surprised by that. Right? What you will have to watch out for in this one is the signs. I'm combining these. If I have negative 12 and I take 8 more away, it just becomes more negative. It becomes negative 20. And then if I divide both sides by negative 5, I get z equals, a negative divided by negative is a positive 4. Okay. At a later point, we could talk about, checking those equations. All right, so here's exercise number 2. And once I get these, move this down so you can see. Once I get these 2 written down, I'm going to stop. This is going to be the end of the video. You're going to do the 2 exercises, and then you're going to check in with me to make sure that you've done them correctly. And then there's some practice, and then possibly move on to the enrichment piece. So I'm going to write 2 down. So this is A. Let me find a couple good ones here. Let's do 10x plus 12 minus 4x equals 18. And then the second one we'll do will be negative 3x minus 5 plus 2x equals negative 4. Right? So right down over just a little bit so you can see. There you go. So you can pause the video here to get the end of it, and then this is the end of the video. So this is Mr. Sims signing off.